Okay, so let's go on to the delightful gate 3. Now, I think that this is one of those gates where you really need everyone to be on it for every single phase, especially because you need people alive for tentacles. I'll go into tentacles in a minute. Now, technically speaking, you know, if you keep everyone with the awakening, especially those who have AoEs, it does make tentacles easier. But tentacles is a tough mechanic because I feel like it's a little bit, you need a little bit of luck to get through it, but also you just need everyone to be switched on 100% for that specific mechanic, because getting charmed there, you know, can be a game ender depending on what period of that phase you get charmed. But anyway, I won't get ahead of myself here. Let's break down why gate 3 is so tough without communication, and why you really need to understand what you need to communicate to your team. Now, one thing I will say is once you understand gate 3 fully, there's not much you need to really tell anybody else in your team. A lot of it's on an individual basis, doing your basics. That is depositing your purple pool away from everybody, apart from on the one mechanic at 120 bars, which I'll get into in a minute. But being responsible for depositing your pools away so it doesn't charm people and fill up people's gauge. It shows responsibility for knowing at what point you're going to cleanse the orbs, and it's also taking responsibility for pinging the correct information, or in some cases not pinging when other people are pinging, so we know where to go and when to go there. So let's get into it then. Let's go into Vykas Gate 3. What are the key pieces of information you need to communicate, what you need to do, and why, again, it is down to being responsible for yourself and not relying on other people to carry you through. Hopefully this helps you take some responsibility in the raid, understand that it's not as hard as it looks, and that it is possible for everyone to do. If I can do it and I'm a boomer who's almost 40 years old, I'm sure you guys can do it too. Let's go. Okay, so swamps, as I like to call them. Now, swamps is basically a mechanic where 3 of you will get a slowing debuff, and the other 6 people or 5 people, I can't remember what it is, my maths is terrible, will get a speed debuff. Now, what happens is Vykas pulls everybody in, but you can only not be pulled into her AoE that auto kills you by being in the slow debuff. Now, this requires, as this brilliant image shows here, you to dump the speed debuff away from where the slow people are making a little slowing treadmill over here. So you need to make a bridge, some people call it. I call it a treadmill because, well, it's a treadmill. But yeah, you basically deposit your slows here, as I'm showing in the video. And you deposit your fast either side. You save your jump. As soon as you see the blue swiftness buff deposit, you jump away, jump into the slow at the edge. Don't go too far out or you will be killed. Go to the beginning of the bridge and you will slowly walk towards Vykas, but not quick enough for her to kill you. Again, this is a very simple mechanic, and normally I know the I know the runs are going to be a tough one if this mechanic isn't done cleanly first time round. It's a very simple mechanic, requires you to pay a tiny bit of attention to the buff or debuff have. Next, you've got the first mechanic that requires people to understand where their gauge is at. There's a gauge management system here. I should have really explained that at the start, but briefly, the more you get hit, the more your gauge fills up. The amount your gauge fills dictates how much damage you can do to Vykas. However, if your gauge maxes, you are charmed and you start attacking your own team and you kill them very quickly. So gauge management, again, is an individual responsibility. Look at how much your gauge is full. If it's really full, play super safe, let your team do the damage. There'll be a cleansing mechanic coming soon when the gauge will come down. We'll touch upon that in a second. But again, sword illusions, if your bar is at a certain point above 70, you'll be able to see the swords. You need to ping the swords. The people who see the statues do not ping. That is so important. If you see statues, do not ping. Wait for the sword people to ping, and when they ping what you can see, which is a statue, they cannot see the statue. You need to do a different ping. For the love of God, don't do the same ping the sword people were doing. It's basic 101 of communication. Once you ping the statue where the sword overlaps, you all run to that area and it's a safe zone. Quickly then, you got the QTE mechanic next, requires you at about 138 to 133 bars. You're going to go to the safe zone. You're going to cleanse yourself to 0 because that makes the QTE slower and manageable. You then type in the QTE. For the love of God, just focus. Don't talk during the QTE. Let people focus. What I find helps is you do the first two by not looking at the screen, just by quickly going to the first key and doing it. Then you look at the screen and you look at your keyboard and make sure you get the last few. It's the last few people normally get wrong, in my opinion. But yeah, and then you type that in twice. Hopefully you don't have any bars. If you do, you simply stay north, wait for her to do the inside out mechanic, and then you use Nineveh to get rid of her shield. If she's stunned in the middle, just use Nineveh anyway to get the damage. It's a very simple mechanic, but this is just simply take your time, don't rush, get it right.
It's just the two of us. Oh. Focus your eyes on me.
I got one wrong. On to the next check then, you got the stagger checker 105. So as you can see, we've taken the 12 o'clock orb first. That's to cleanse and do the QTE. Sorry, not the stagger check. We're going on to the charming mechanic at 120 bars. Now this is the only time when you get a purple pool under your feet. You do not go away. You gather together. You all get charmed, and she's going to do a wipe mechanic, which will kill you unless you are charmed or technically on her team. Simply, after this mechanic, gather everyone, gather ping, everyone gathers, you all get charmed, and she tries to do an AoE, you're all fine, you come out of the charm. Be careful, if you're in a pool that is made due to unlucky timing, just quickly get away from it or call that you're about to be charmed and let people throw a sleep bomb on you. Again, this is personal responsibility. If you see that your bar is going to be full when you come out of this charm because there's already a pool under you, call it before you charm. Just say, look, I'm going to get sleep here or slept here. Yeah, can you please uncharm me? 120 bars, what we're going to do is we are going to gather, get charmed, and not get wiped. It's a very simple mechanic. Again, requires you to pay attention to the bars and not run away with it and get near your party. Again, repeating individual responsibility. Okay, without comms, you need to be aware of 120, those pools that you get around that. Now, listen, if you're doing really high damage, it might be 105, but you just need to be really careful on this and gather.
Only your desire for me will save you. Come on, be Arks. Succumb to your desire.
Okay, moving on, stagger check. You're going to the 3 o'clock orb. That's what we do. I mean, you might be slightly different, but that's what we did. We went to 3 o'clock orb. We cleanse, we run in, we stagger her with nades and stagger skulls, and then as soon as she's staggered, not during the yellow bar, it's really important here. As soon as she's staggered, personally, I'd count to 1 second and hit time stop, and you'd be fine. Make sure you got time stop. Make sure you haven't used one before. Make sure it's off cooldown. Again, personal responsibility. That's the easiest way to do it. Stagger her with skills and nades. Everyone's alive, so you can stagger quickly, and then you time stop. Done. On to the next phase. After this, really, you're in the home stretch, in my opinion. Tentacles is coming. We're going to talk about Tentacles because it is one of those where it will cause a lot of wipes unless you really have it nailed down who's doing what and when. Again, swamp pattern's back to the beginning. Done the swamp pattern before, you know it inside out. Deposit the slow at 9 o'clock in a line. Deposit the swiftness either side opposite of it and get to the slow in time. Tentacles. All right. Good old tentacles. Okay, the boss will spawn a bunch of tentacles that can only be damaged and killed if your bar is above 70. Now, Personally, I found having your bar at 70 or very close to 70, or at least having some people who have the bar at 70, going into the mechanic, they can instantly cast an awakening on the tentacles that are grouped near each other towards the south of the map. And somebody who has a kind of more, let's say, single target awakening can use the tentacles further away to the 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock position. That's how we got it done regularly. Or if you've got, let's say, a class that's a lot of massive AoE skills, make sure they've got charm, make sure they don't get hit. So make sure they've got gauge, make sure they don't get hit and get charmed, and take out the tentacles. This is about the DPSs holding back their big damage skills and having gauge, so as soon as the mechanic starts, you can launch your nukes. If your bar, which by the way is going to be depleting in this section of the boss, when it goes below 70, you go collect the orbs to get bar back and go help. Again, ping, you need help. Don't just sit there in silence, for the love of God. Every tentacle has to be destroyed. If, let's say, you run out of bar or you didn't collect the orbs and you're behind on DPS, ping instantly and get someone to come help you. We normally split party 1 left, party 2 right. If you're on the left as party 1, all your tentacles are gone. Try and get over to the right hand side to help and launch a long range AoE or something. Do anything to help. You have to clear every tentacle or it is a wipe. Help south. Then we got what? It's the hope that gets you guys. It's the hope that gets you.
You look delicious.
Personally, we did holding back AoE awakenings, any AoEs and awakenings, holding them back, not using them. And then as soon as the mechanics start, the people with max gauge, not max gauge, but 70 gauge would launch their awakenings at the ones at the south, and everyone else would kind of taper off to the ones that are isolated more to the 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock or 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock positions. Again, communication, if you're not on Discord, ping, let people know they need help. Don't just sit there in silence and let your tentacles stay alive. It is a wipe. You need to be responsible for your tentacle. You need to be responsible for your side of the map. Okay, then we got some hard one mechanics. I won't go into them because I think people are probably struggling are pretty much doing normal mode. This mechanic isn't massively difficult, to be honest. It's just spacebar spam. And finally, you got the final stagger. Okay. Final stagger requires you to cleanse at 8 bars of the normal mechanic. At the 6 o'clock orb is what we did. But you've got to cleanse and get your gauge down to just near 0, not totally 0, so you can do a bit of damage. And then you're going to gather at the clone. You're going to pay attention to your map in the top right, and you're going to go to the real Vykas, keeping your back to the clone. So that I'm going to wee straight away from behind her. Right.
Unleash your power, Jojo!
I knew you guys would have won. I knew it. Honestly, no doubt in my mind at all. The clone is going to do a Medusa, which is going to fill up your gauge, and if you don't look away, all of you, is practically GG. You all need to be looking away from her while running towards the real Vykas. Keep looking away until the Medusa mechanic is done. Turn around and do the wee sidereal, throw your whirlwind nades, and do all your stagger skills. You probably won't have enough stagger to kill it first time, but if you got that mechanic right and cleansed at 8 bars, you should be able to go to the middle and finish the job. If your gauge is filling for any reason, Vykas will fire a kind of circle that kind of goes towards Vykas. You need to get in that circle to reduce gauge quickly. It's a quick reaction. You need to get in there, cleanse yourself, and then go middle. And again, you need to stagger, clear the stagger bar, and it's a GG. It's really important that on this final phase you get behind Vykas, because she's going to fire some lasers that are going to absolutely nuke you. Get behind her, look away. When the Medusa kind of pattern that you'll see goes, you then turn around. We stagger nades, damage, do your stagger skills. Don't do a big stagger skill if you think it's going to miss. Save it for when she goes mid, and then do it then. It's the same mechanic as the 138 bar mechanic after you do the QTE. She does the inside out, outside in. She then drops down to the middle. You then do your stagger, and it should be GG, assuming you are not all charmed and nuking each other to kingdom come. And that is really it. This has been a bit of a longer video than I anticipated, but really I just wanted to break down what is causing a lot of wipes. And I know a lot of people are struggling. To be honest, I've been doing random party maker, and god, some of the parties are just, the players just don't have either the knowledge or the level of execution to do it. And I found a lot of parties where everyone knew what they're doing, and literally we got through it in 45 minutes, 30 minutes. So it is about you improving yourself. It's not always other people's fault. You have to take responsibility for every mechanic and guide others as well, so they can learn. Slowly and steadily, we will hopefully develop a pool of people in the community that are very confident and clear in the mechanic and can help other people. And that's it really. Please, if you don't know what you're doing, don't join parties that everyone knows what they're doing and you don't, and you stay quiet. There's nothing more frustrating. I think people would appreciate it if you went in and just said, look, I don't know quite what this mechanic is or that is, and people will explain it to you, what they hate and what I hate. If you stay quiet and just keep dying, it's nothing more frustrating, because for me, you're not respecting people's time, and we all want to get things done in an efficient manner. And if that means teaching somebody, that's fine. That's a good thing to do. It's important. We help each other and develop a healthy community, and hopefully this video helps. But really, again, individual execution, making calls yourself, and reading calls and communicating to your team are a huge part of this. And if you can't, I think if you can't do this, you're going to really struggle going forward. I never played the Korean Russian version, but everything I've read about the raids pretty much been bang on at the moment, which is that Valtan was a tough raid in terms of the pushing off the ledge, but Vykas is a step up in terms of every single person having to know what they do. And that's all really. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Yeah, and take care. I hope you enjoyed that. If you've got any questions about the raid, you can hit the follow on YouTube, Twitch. I can help you out, answer any questions. Raiding all the time, every week on YouTube and Twitch. So yeah, drop us a shout. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, yada yada. Any questions, give me a shout. Peace out.